Hey guys, Godfather of Anxiety here. Just wanted to do a really short video. You can almost call it a bit of a positive thinking or a pep talk type video when it comes to why I know that you can recover from anxiety. And I'm just going to give a few reasons that you really have to be honest with yourself. A few reasons why you know for sure it's possible for you to recover from any of the anxiety disorders, no matter how long you may have had them or how many negative thought patterns have developed over the years. First of all, the first reason I'll give, most of you out there have not always had one of these conditions. Most of you can remember when you woke up without that knot in your stomach. Most of you can remember when you weren't making insane connections or catastrophizing every little thing, every little potential health issue, every phone call being something bad, every change, whether it's at your job or in your family, being something to be feared or to cause you upset. You haven't always been that way. So if you are fortunate enough not to have always felt this way, look back and remember when you weren't like this. I do this constantly because there's some things that still can be a struggle for me, with driving, for instance. But I remember 2 years before I had anxiety, before I started to develop clinical anxiety disorder, I drove to New York City in a manual shift car on a whim, had a great time. My brothers and I went to see a game down there. We decided, in the early afternoon to do it. We had a great time. There was a lot of traffic. There was so many things that, even to this day would be things that I would want to at least plan ahead for. And I was able to do that. And I remember, I have to remind myself, hey, dude, you don't get nervous on these little things because you've already proven that you can handle big things, and so that's just one example, but there's so many things, maybe because I find that a lot of the people with these anxiety disorders were really generally very smart people. We also tend to possess a high degree of social intelligence as well. So a lot of the times we've made good friends and had good relationships over the years, especially preceding our diagnosis. So, remember that. Remember your life before. And don't remember it in a negative way. View it as a possibility. Guys, you can do it. I promise you. I've been there. I've been, basically in the seventh circle of hell for 6 years, and I came out of it. So that's one thing I think to help know that you will be able to recover. Another thing is there is no horrible physical problem that you can't recover from. So, if somebody gets, heaven forbid, gets cancer or some other terrible terminal illness, no matter how much they want to live, they eventually very well may succumb to the illness. But that's not the situation you're in. And I know it can be frustrating to know that there's nothing you can see, touch, or diagnose on a test that's holding you back. But at the same time, view it through a positive lens. You aren't going to have to contest with a real physical malady once you get your mind and your electrical impulses to shut off the fight or flight mode. So that's another thing I think you need to remember. These anxiety conditions can make you feel, hopeless, but they're not hopeless conditions because there is no underlying physiological cause for them that they know of. Now, yes, we have hereditary issues. We have hyperactive amygdalas. We have things that predispose us to potentially getting these conditions. but we don't have anything that will inhibit us with the right treatment from recovery. So that's another reason you can recover. Also, with as many negative things as there are about the internet, you guys can get treatment fairly easily now as far as seeing a mental health professional. And, use the internet. If you're not up to going out yet, maybe you've become agoraphobic or housebound. Use the internet as a way to get diagnosed, to get treated, so that you can start to get better. And having this at your disposal is another big thing to realize, that you can do this. You can recover. If you have access to the internet, then you should be able to access treatment. That's another thing. So, the other thing is, and this is the last thing I'll end. I just wanted to make a real quick, just very positive video. The other thing is, guys, I did it. And I'm telling you, I have pictures, I have videos, I can show you guys. I was in 2008, I would probably be defined as super morbidly obese. I was barely hanging on to my job. My relationships with my family had suffered greatly from the 6 years of, untreated anxiety disorder, panic disorder, obsessive compulsive disorder. I was in a really bad spot. But with the right treatment, yes, it did involve medication, but it also involved the right therapist, and to finally identify the way to get better, instead of some of the other therapist that I had tried. He wants to sit there and talk, and the fact of the matter is, most of the time when you have fight or flight turned on, talking about it is not going to help. If anything, it's going to exacerbate the symptoms. But I got with the right therapist. He was perfect. He'd ignore what he needed to ignore. The lunacy where I'm thinking, this happened or that happened, and he would ignore that, but then really listen for the other stuff. And as far as seeing how I was actually doing, that, was I able to go to work? Was I mending my relationships with my family? Was I working on diet and exercise? And, it just was really good. I like I've mentioned in other videos, I'm very grateful to that gentleman. He's since retired, but just a really, really kind man. And he was an essential part of my recovery. So the bottom line is, guys, if I can do it, you can do it. There's nothing special about me. I'm a regular guy. I have all of the same things going on that you guys have, with work and with family and, all of those things. And I know how hard it is to balance everything too. I understand that. And that's part of the reason I think when you have one of these conditions, it can be, it can be really overwhelming when you already have so much on your plate. How am I going to deal with this too, but you can, and you don't view it like it's something you have to conquer all at once. And don't view it like it's something that is just going to go away one day, because especially if you've had it for a while, the one thing, I'm not going to feed you guys baloney. It's going to take a little while to recover, because if you've had it for a while, you've developed negative thought patterns that are going to make it more difficult to recover from the anxiety disorder. If you're fortunate enough to identify it quickly before a lot of negative thought patterns develop, you might be able to recover equally quickly. So there's a small percentage of people that are able to do that. I was not that lucky. I suffered for 6 years. And, so I still have to fight some of the thought patterns. Also, if you're like me, you're probably always a bit of a worrier and a what-if thinker. So Anyways, the whole purpose of this short video is just so that you guys know you can do it. You have access. If you have access to the internet, if you, the other thing, guys, recovery is really so much about the big three that I mention all the time. It's so much to do with getting your sleep, getting your exercise, and eating in a way that's not controlling your life. So you guys can do this. I have to remind myself. A lot of my videos are really good reminders for myself as well, because this is an ongoing process. I always have to fight those negative thought patterns, and I have to remind myself what reality is. So that's what I'm doing for you guys right here with this video. Guys, thanks so much for the engagement with the channel. It's been outstanding. Keep the comments coming. Keep the questions coming. I'm not a mental health professional, but I will give you guys my personal experiences and what has worked for me. And obviously, it's never to be viewed as medical advice. I always encourage you guys to go and see a mental health professional. But thanks so much, guys. And until my next video, take care.